All right, shall we do a podcast?
Let's do a podcast.
All right, let's make it official. Hello and welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. We're at episode 825. It's being recorded on June 4, 2025. I am Sebastian Peak.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Brett Van Sproonberg.
That's not Kent.
And I'm Kent Burgess, not that other guy.
Yeah, we're back. And we want to thank everybody for watching the live stream. We started off a little late because we had to record an offline segment. It'll be seamlessly edited in. You won't even know. I'm spoiling it all. I'll cut all this out. And you'll never know. But before we get started on the actual podcast, let's talk about Patreon. And Brett, I know we have some people to thank. Mm-hmm. And one of them is a fan favorite thing, part of PCPer lore, like hot dogs in a hallway. The infamous Nick Giga Routers. We have a user with that name, or a patron.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely an homage to all the glory that we have brought to the Nick Giga brand here. Through, I know that I personally have patronized Nick Giga. I know that Josh is a big fan of Nick, the Nick Giga, and now we have Nick Giga as a fan of ours, and I think it's full circle. It's really come full circle. Appreciations, small applause. Thank you very much. But not to be outdone, we also have 50 kilowatt, not like 40 kilowatts, not quite 60 kilowatts. 50 kilowatts, which is, as we know, just enough. And I do want to re-mention Sean M. just because. No, that's it. Just because. Thank you, Sean. 50 kilowatt. And, of course, Nick Giga.
50 kilowatts. That's a powerful signal. You'll get that halfway around the world.
It is.
I'm sure.
It is.
Bring him back up when he reaches the level of 1.21 gigawatts.
Mm-hmm. I do want to add that we don't always suffer from microphone failure here on this podcast, but when we do, we recover gracefully. Mm-hmm. Just going to leave it at that.
Yeah. Anyone who saw last week's thumbnail will know Kent was displeased. And then I randomly, I don't know if anybody noticed this, there's a translucent Lego minifig of...
I noticed.
Who was it? General Grievous?
Yes, it was Grievous.
Just because... My son was like, can we put General Grievous on the thumbnail? Like, it doesn't make any sense, but yes.
Well, he was showing an interest, and you wanted to kind of...
Right, so I took a picture of it with a black background and cut out the background and pasted it.
I was looking at it going...
It's like, why?
Is that General Grievous? Why is that there?
He was like going to blow him up and make him like leering over you, but I don't know. I'm done. Just paste it.
Yeah.
Okay. Josh, do you want to talk about food?
Me. Let's talk about food, baby. Let's talk about burgers and me. Talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about burgers. So anyway, it is Wednesday, and Wednesday is a good day because Wednesday is burger day. And I went down to the Born in the Barn, and their new patties are actually killing it. I appreciate the slightly larger, slightly thicker patties. 7 ounces rather than a quarter pound. But this today is the old popper. And they made it with extra care and love. The fries were very crispy, yet still tender on the inside. They were, nicely seasoned, not over seasoned, so I could, add whatever season I wanted. Those are large candied jalapenos in there. They didn't have a whole lot of heat, but they sure tasted good. There's that cream cheese, and looks like some onion flakes and seeds, and They top it off with a raspberry pepper jelly. And it all just, it's an absolutely fantastic thing. They didn't overwrap it, so it didn't crush the bun. And I really appreciated that. They put it in an actual, box that didn't get munched around there. And, it all was really, really a fantastic thing. And I am still not hungry. Almost 8 hours later, still not hungry.
So, the new graphics card just dropped. Well, I don't know if you can buy it yet. As we record this, the initial launch reviews.
What is it?
The RX 9060 XT, guys. Get excited. Josh, you had a chance to look at one ahead of the launch, and we're going to cut to you now.
Sure. As you well know, XFX, they make some pretty nice little gaming cards. This is the Swift version, which is their lowest kind of end SKU. They got the Swift, the Quickster, and then, of course, at the top end, the Mercury. So I don't think that they have a Quickster of it. No, actually, they have a Mercury. But anyway, this one is going to be retailing for $399. And instead of being a dual fan, kind of smaller heatsink, it is a full triple fan, larger heatsink. It's two and a half slots, and it's actually pretty robust. Now, one of the issues that kind of stuck out to us is that it's not really overclocked. It has the same BIOS as their regular Swift 2 fan, even though they say it's somewhat overclocked. It's not up there. It's got one PCI-E by 8 power, so it has a max of 225 watts. That's 75 for the PCI slot and 150 for the plug. It's around 160 to 180 watt TDP card, so it does have some room for overclocking. We weren't able to have a whole lot of time yet to explore that, just because of when we got the card, when we got drivers, and just everything. Now, basically, the 9060 XT is one half of a 9070 XT card. It's got 32 compute units, 32 hardware ray trace accelerators, 64 hardware AI accelerators, which, of course, AMD calls it that. NVIDIA calls them tensor cores. Boost clock goes to 3.1 gigahertz. This version's got 16 gigs of memory running at 20 gigabit, giving us 320 gigabytes per second of throughput. Now, it's got 64 ROPS, which is nice. It's, again, half of what the Navi 48, which is the big Navi this generation, which powers the 9070 XT. It has all the encode and decode happiness that the other one does. Interesting for this market, it is a full PCIe 5.0 by 16 connection to the CPU. Now, a lot of other cards that are competing are 5.0 by 8. So it's kind of a nice little extra that AMD is doing there. The die itself is 199 millimeter square or so. It's made on the TSMC 4NP platform. So it's a pretty high-end chip. Again, it says it's overclocked, but essentially kind of runs at stock performance, maybe a little bit higher. When I was, doing actual applications, I saw it boost upwards of 3,235 megahertz, so 3.235 gigahertz. A little bit higher than the 3.1 that they talk about, but we've seen others go quite a bit higher. Performance-wise, it usually goes up around above the old RX, no, not old, but older RX 7700 XT, depending on the application. Now, in older, more raster and shader bound, the older product goes a little bit faster. It's got 100 gigabytes per second of more memory bandwidth. It can handle a little bit more shader operations. But when you start to really kind of hammer things down in RT, then that's when we see the 9600 XT start to kind of creep up. Now, Speedway, the 7700 XT is a little bit faster. But when we look at the Steel Nomad, well, they swap positions there. So the 9060 XT is a, significant amount faster than the older 7700 XT. Now, it does get close to the RTX 4070, which was one of the more efficient cards that NVIDIA has produced in quite a while. And that, in theory, has more memory bandwidth and supposedly a better overall chip, but we can see here the 9060 XT is often quite competitive with it. As we go through more things, I talk about, I did more testing with RT enabled, and we see the same thing. Now, for Forza Horizon 5, it's kind of interesting to see the 9060 XT is actually outperforming the older RTX 3080. It, again, is faster than the 7700 XT, and it is nipping at the heels of the RTX 4070. When we go to other things like Far Cry 6, again, we're looking at ray tracing performance. It's actually outperforming the 7700 XT, the RTX 4070, and the RTX 3080. Now, this is a very AMD-friendly benchmark, so it makes sense that they would do that. Now, and it's also actually, a lot closer to the 7900 XT than many people would expect. The strong point really is around the 1440 performance. It can perform well at 4K in this particular application, going over 60 frames per second. So in this case, the memory bandwidth and everything allows it to outperform something like the Intel Arc B580, the RTX 3080, which is struggling with its 10 gigs of memory in this, the RTX 3060 12 gig, which is now becoming extremely long in the tooth. And at the very bottom, you see the RX 7700 XT just not doing very well in this benchmark at 4K. So the 9060 XT can be strong in 4K, but again, it seems to be strongest and more consistent at 2560 by 1440. So one of the newer benchmarks that we've been running is the Monster Hunter Wilds. And this is, while it some complaints about how actually pretty it is, it does feature a lot of the latest cutting-edge rendering techniques. So with everything enabled, with frame generation disabled, as well as scaling disabled, we can see that the 9060 XT is around 60 frames per second at 1440. Now, again, if we enable frame generation, you'll see that double. In fact, you'll probably see it go up 120% once you start doing scaling. 4K, it absolutely falls down. It is a rough kind of benchmark. Again, maybe not entirely optimized, but we still see it pulling ahead of the 7700 XT. It's twice as fast as the RTX 3060 and the recently released Intel Arc B580. Moving along, Cyberpunk RT. It's kind of the big daddy of things that people like to benchmark. And as we can see, if you enable all of the RT to Ultra, you don't do path tracing, but that's the next step up. And it really hammers on things. Take it down a level to Ultra, and we can see that the 9060 XT is hitting about 30 frames per second in the benchmark. RTX 4070, RTX 3080, the RX 970, all pulling well ahead of the 9060 XT. But if you look below it, it's the RX 7700 XT is slower. The Arc B580, again, slower. And then the poor RTX 3060, now over 4 years old, is holding up the rear. So you may not want to play this application at 4K without frame generation or scaling, but we know where it kind of sits. Efficiency and power draw is outstanding for this card. It outperforms the 3060 almost by double in many things. And you can see it only pulls about 10 more watts at the plug. Previously, I talked about how efficient the RTX 4070 is, and that's a little bit higher performance and draws a little bit more power. So we can see how well AMD has done in their power scaling versus what they had done with the 7000 series. The 7000 series were pretty notorious for pulling a lot of juice. As much so as what NVIDIA was doing at their higher end. thermals, this is an outstanding solution. It is consistently one of the coolest operating units out there. At load, it was doing 55C. At idle, it was 37C. It is a pretty beefy heatsink, and it's a nice and heavy card. And the 3 fans only rotated about 1400 RPM. So even at load, it is absolutely silent, and it can hit 55C. So cooling wise, I have absolutely no issues with this card. XFX has done a very nice design. You have a little bit of outflow from the front. Everything is vertical here. And again, because PCBs have gotten so short, they allow a lot of extra pass-through for the fans, which, it's good for the GPU, not nearly as fun for the CPU. Now, as you can see, it's still not a small card, but if we compare it to the 9070 from XFX, it's significantly smaller, and it is significantly shorter than this behemoth, which, again, is one of the more impressively cooled units that is out in the market. So AMD's done a lot of good things with this. 16 gig is great. I'm unsure if XFX will be releasing an 8 gig card, but that is one that there is a lot of discussion about. Should it even exist? I'm of the opinion that if you do it at a decent enough price point, there are people who will use it that way. There are plenty of people out there who only play Rocket League and League of Legends and other things. And I'm not trying to parrot AMD and what they're saying. I'm just saying there are people who could use a card like this who do not play AAA titles that require the absolute latest in ray tracing and features. So even though it is, feature complete, it's a robust card. 8 gig is, if you want it, you better understand the limitations. But again, this is a 16 gig card. It works fantastic. So XFX has a very solid card. It is a little bit pricier at $399, but I think that you really get some good potential, overclocking potential, as well as that cooling, and it is just super quiet. You can't hear it outside of the case over like any other fans. I had 3 120 millimeter slow moving fans in the case that I tested in, as well as a dual 280 liquid cooler for the CPU. You just can't hear this video card at all.
Thank you, Josh. And be sure to visit PCPer.com to read all of Josh's words. He wrote many of them. And I
said some very nice things about me and yours, and you didn't have to because...
Well, it was one of those things. This is a little bit of a behind-the-scenes look, but this was the launch review. And unfortunately, we're having to record this offline right now and seamlessly edit it into the podcast because I was informed last night, you can't publish that one as your launch review, because that one is not an MSRP card. So I had to quick throw together a review with just the 1440 Ultra benchmarks that I'd done. And my argument with AMD was that this isn't a 1440 Ultra card. The response I got was, oh, yes, it is. So, okay, well, here you go. It doesn't look all that great because I wasn't doing a bunch of RT stuff, and that's really where it shines, like you were just saying, Josh. This is Steel Nomad is the latest and greatest 3D Mark benchmark, and it clearly is optimized for that sort of workload. Maybe not the pure ray tracing workload. You're not going to do better than NVIDIA in path tracing, I'm guessing. And it doesn't do as well in Speedway, which is the full DXR benchmark. But if it's DXR elements with, like a real game, and as you saw, with real games, not just synthetic benchmarks, it often does eclipse the 7700 XT and it comes really close to a 4070. In my testing, I had a 5060 Ti as well and an old 4060 8 gig. It's way faster than the 4060. It'll be faster than a 5060. It is not faster than a 5060 Ti 16 gig. So.
Yeah, that's pretty consistent around. There will be one or two things that the 9060 XT will outperform it, but for the most part, that 5060 Ti 16 that you can buy right now for $479 at the lowest, it's still a significantly higher priced unit than even the 399 XFX or the 349 that you reviewed.
Speaking of the RX 9060 XT, TechPowerUp, they reviewed the Asus Prime variant of it, but interestingly, they took theirs apart. So we have those great PCB shots and the die shots. Look at that adorable little GPU there, nestled deep down into that actually fairly small PCB.
Yeah, it's amazing what 128-bit memory bus will do for you when it comes to traces. And a sub 180 watt TDP on that card.
You can push that a little bit, though, from what I read.
Push it real good.
Yep.
Yeah, even with the one pin, like I said, is that it's 225 watts in theory that you can push to the board. So if you can unlock the limit on that a little bit and push it up, maybe even undervolt it some, you could see some 3.5, 3.6 gigahertz core speeds.
It's funny you mentioned that, Josh.
Yes,
because,
you can.
Over at Tom's Hardware, they said under 200 watts, it was still able to achieve 3.5 gigahertz. So that's impressive.
Look, they used
3.474
in their review.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Test yours out. Push it, Josh. Push it real good. Increase that power limit. Undervolt. They always say to undervolt. See, what were they doing here? This user, it was a Redditor who had it.
Beta 25.
I'm not going to attempt to pronounce
drivers.
This. It appears to be Japanese, but it's they did a minus
millivolts.
40 millivolt offset, so they are undervolting. Increased power limit all the way up to the maximum, like plus 10%, and asked for a 200 megahertz overclock. So looks like everything else was left pretty much stock. So there you go.
Yeah, the memory bus is kind of maxed out from what I understand. So
yeah,
sad, because that's an area where I think it's a little weaker than even as we saw with as we will see in your review, the 7700 XT kind of outpaces a little bit in raster and more traditional shader, and ignoring RT. And I wonder if part of that isn't just it's memory bandwidth. You've got a 192-bit bus that runs at 4.2 gigahertz gigabytes per second, and the 9060 XD is 100 gigabyte per second less. So could have something to do with it.
Yeah, and just you mentioned my review. We'll look at it for like 30 seconds because I had the Sapphire Pulse card, the 16 gig variant that AMD sent out, and nice compact 2-fan card. Now, my results might be just a bit different from Josh's. I do show an advantage in Steel Nomad, just like he did. Almost the same scores. 3D Mark Speedway, again, it doesn't quite match the old RX 7700 XT, but that had a 192-bit memory bus with the same GDDR6. So more memory bandwidth, and it's sad, just like you were just saying. If this had GDDR7 or 6X or just a higher speed 6, it would probably have even better performance. But
or 192-bit bus like before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes, but then it would have like a weird
6X
number,
or 7.
like 12 gigs
They should
of
have.
memory again. But
Yep.
like and here's the only example I'll show here, because Josh showed Cyberpunk at the ray traced ultra preset settings. I'm at ultra no ray tracing, and that's raster. And here the 7700 XT is a few frames faster at 1440 than the 9060 XT. So depending on how you game, if you're one of those people who doesn't care about ray tracing, the older card will serve you quite well. But again, power draw, it's really good.
Yeah.
It's the maximum number I saw momentary power was 183.41 watts. A little spike early on in the test here, but the average across the entire test was only 130 watts. This is a very well-behaved card. Sapphire says you only need a 450 watt power supply. When was the last time we saw a power supply recommendation that low for a graphics card?
To replace a Dell pre-built.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, this is the next card for your Dell 8100 Pentium 4 desktop.
I don't know. I think
maybe.
the RTX 5060 non-TI 8 gig is.
Did you see the MSI card that's about like this big? It's like one fan size, the entire card for the 5060, like Josh was saying.
Yeah, the 5060 has a low profile.
Very,
it's
very
a low
small
profile, like 1.5 or 2 slot.
Yeah, it's very low profile.
They make they do make it two low fan, a double fan, low pro, but MSI came up with a full height, relatively full height, but it's this tiny little square. It's the size of a fan.
MSI actually showed one of the it's sort of a retro card in the 5060. It's got their old style cyclone cooler on it, where you can see all the fins coming out with a fan in the center. It looks kind of cool and retro. I have no idea how good it's going to cool that chip, or the GDDR7. But we'll see.
Hey, retro is trendy, Kent. That's a great point, because NVIDIA is releasing a retro card with only 8 gigabytes of memory. Why not give it that retro aesthetic and put it in one of those beige cases from Silverstone?
Are those like
you're going to
crystal?
pay more for the case than you will for the GPU?
Is that like a crystal thing around that Cyclone card? Maybe it would pair well with some of that G-Skill RAM with all the like jewels on it.
The Royal.
The Royale without cheese, but the Royale
I have my old
the same.
Radeon 4770 Cyclone here in the basement somewhere that I should show, but I'm not going to do that. So
It does not have a waifu backplate.
no. Next up, NVIDIA reportedly plans to cut RTX 50 series GPU production. I wonder why. This is a report, so it could be true. It could not be true. This is one of those things where it's via WCCF Tech, via something posted on a message board. It's been machine translated. Take this with a grain of salt. But it's interesting to consider. What if they're coming out with a 60 series already?
No,
they're not.
But it does sort of make sense that they're saying, we're making boatloads of money on the gaming segment right now. We don't really need that. Let's make more of this AI stuff that people are spending way too much money on. We're going to move production over more to that. That does make a certain amount of sense.
Why do we want 40% margins on gaming stuff when we can get 120% margins on the AI?
Everybody asks reasonable questions.
120%. Huh? 120%. Maybe add a zero to that.
Yeah.
Josh, our stockholders will not demand any less. We must abide.
Well, I mean, their overall right now is, if you're to do non-GAAP for the last quarter, it was like 72%. And they're expecting 74% next quarter.
Well,
for growth margins.
That's just a horrific disappointment.
I think if you're talking about them cutting production, wouldn't it be for the rather disappointing RTX 5060 cards? I mean, I'm on Newegg right now. You can order one. It's $20 off for a 5060 8 gig. That's clearly not selling all that well. Here's one from MSI. These are...
Seeing discounts on recently launched cards is not a good sign.
This one's $40 off from MSI. You have another $40 off this Ventus. That's a 5060 Ti, but it's only 8 gigs. People don't want these cards. I mean,
Imagine sitting around the NVIDIA boardroom going like, well, they're not buying them. Let's not make them anymore.
But the promise of
that meme of the guy
the lowest
out the window?
and
The lowest price 16 gig, 5060 Ti, I think is like still $479, and that's the lowest. Otherwise, you go into 5
Josh,
series.
Look, it's
Wait,
$50 off right now.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I had not seen that one.
I don't think people really want the 5060.
Probably
series.
not.
So yeah, maybe they'd cut the production of those if they're actually discounted on Newegg and they're in stock, and it's not a good look. I mean, they're supposed to be out of stock. Third parties selling them for $500 over MSRP. Come on.
Yep. Scalpers whipping up a frenzy on eBay, et cetera, et cetera. Repeat ad nauseum.
Mm-hmm. So Microsoft is going to fix USB-C. They want it to just work. They don't want confusion. They don't want this jumble of standards and buy two and what does it all mean?
And they are famously known for inventing USB-C and other hardware devices and interconnects. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
this is what bugs me about it is I love the idea. I don't trust Microsoft to do it.
yes, there's the rub right there.
Jeremy, don't forget, they saved us all from that alphabet soup of different graphics APIs back in the day when they created DirectX. And it saved the graphics industry. It allowed it to become a 2-horse race with just, ATI and NVIDIA. And
honestly, I think
AMD
this
and
is sour grapes from losing the lightning connector.
Apple says you never lost the lightning connector.
Beat them, and so now they're like, nope, that's it. We're coming back. We're going to come up with a straight USB-C, which, hey, again, love the idea. I hate plugging one in and going, yeah, this one's not really a data cable, so it's not going to transfer, or have you considered buying
it's
a
not
better
get
USB-C
power
cable? Because this one isn't going to charge quite
or
as
they're
fast
plugging
as
in
ours would.
They're plugging a monitor into a port that won't do USB-C alt mode, or et cetera. The rate doesn't keep up,
you
whatever.
plug it in and you plug in your device and the cord catches fire because it wasn't actually rated to do that power delivery.
I'd forgotten about this, Jeremy. I agree. I have a bone to pick, and it's Apple's fault. Microsoft has to fix this because I, by mistake, my wife wanted a longer cable to have her phone plugged in at night next to the bed. So I went on Amazon. I'm like, okay, Apple, iPhone, USB-C, whatever, because the charger next to the bed is a USB-C output. Her phone is still Lightning. I didn't pay attention. I got one that was USB-C on both ends. So I thought, I'll just use this myself. Like, it's a USB-C cable. Brought it down here, hooked it up to my camera, was going to do some recording from the camera. It was limited to USB 2 data speeds. It was only a charging cable.
Yeah.
And then it had to fall all the way back to USB 2. And it's USB-C. So not only USB-C
so
cables
confusing.
They're not all created
very,
equal.
very awful. Here's something interesting in this article. Microsoft happens to know that approximately 25% of PCs, when plugging in a device to a USB port, has gotten a limited functionality notice. Apparently, all of these PCs getting this notice are calling back to the mothership. I mean, like, duh, like we didn't know that was happening. But anyway, they've kept this statistic, and they're like, maybe we should fix this. Yeah. So this is kind of one of the reasons that they're coming behind this and saying you have to support this minimum feature set. They aren't even asking to support like a significantly high speed. They're saying 5 gigabits is the minimum that any port must support. Only 4.5 watts of power, but it's got to support at least one display and charging, and no more of this mixed mode. Some work in some cases, some don't in other. Go ahead, Jeremy.
It's just 4.5 watts for a monitor and laptop charging. You're dreaming.
No,
it's not going to happen. No, it's not going to happen.
That's
it's
sad.
It's just 7.5 watt.
That's just USB 3.0. Why is that the minimum? Why shouldn't it be a minimum 10 gigabit and 10 watts?
I agree. I think they're
It's
really
ridiculous.
shooting for real lowest common denominator here to say, come on, can't we get on board at least these minimums?
No,
I
we can't.
I actually have a cable downstairs waiting to return to Amazon. It's a 1 foot, 90-degree USB-C on one end and USB-C on the other that I got for just connecting a DAC to my phone.
Mm-hmm.
It is charge only. What good is a charge only 1 foot cable?
It's not just the port's fault, is what you're saying. The cables play an important role. in
Yes,
this.
I connected to my phone and it
ecosystem.
says analog device not supported.
It's confusing out there.
And Intel with the Thunderbolt spec still and USB 4 and it's a mess still. But
Wild
Microsoft's going to
West.
fix this. It's going to fix
Remember when
this. That's what they say.
USB was the universal serial bus? You don't have to worry about
Oh, that's what the U stands for. That's
putting
right.
the floppy disk in and doing a
And now you're going to go back to that scene with founder of Microsoft sitting up there and doing the USB thing, and they plug it in, and the screen blue screens, and he says, "Well, I guess we're not quite ready for this."
Do you think that guy got fired immediately after?
No, it was kind of normal back then.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to, this is right up Jeremy's alley. FOSI Audio, K7. They're getting into gaming? A gaming DAC and amp. Now, usually gaming means worse. Is this still good?
And RGB.
Yes, of course.
So no RGB, but an LCD. You don't usually come into a FOSI that's got a little screen built into it, but this one does. And frankly, you kind of need it because it's got gaming on it because it has knobs. And these knobs don't just bounce between the inputs. They sort of act as an equalizer and a couple of other fun little things. And so the only
Could
way
I
you're
do
gonna know what
DJ
it's
mixing
doing-
on it? Can I?
It
Can I,
looks like you
please?
could, but it's not going to be great.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a single headphone on my, take it off
As you
here
should.
and do
Yeah,
here.
As is
I'm just
tradition.
going to
Does,
spin the
yes.
dials. I'm going to spin the dials and just shake my head.
You're going to
And then
scratch.
I too could be a DJ.
Just wave one hand up in the air and you go like, hey, oh.
Josh, you know that God
Wow,
is
it's
a
like you
DJ.
just don't care.
Yeah.
God is a DJ also.
Yes.
Okay.
But you could hook up that one-sided headphone to this. And the input to a scratch.
Yeah, you can really do whatever you want with it in the privacy of
And-
your own home.
Literally, you could because it's got a Pentacon connector. A nice, properly balanced 2.1 watt,
Oh, okay.
in fact. Because they do usually throw a little bit of something extra in. The 3.5 millimeter is unbalanced, as you would expect. But it's pretty comprehensive for inputs. It does Bluetooth 5.0, USB-C, microphone, coax, and optical, because, that's still a thing. The sampling depth is pretty decent. PCM 24-bit, 48 kilohertz with the Bluetooth, so you're getting the proper Bluetooth 5. And USB, assuming you've got a cable that will transmit data properly, is 32-bit, 384 kilohertz. So it's good. But at the same time, they did try it out at OC Inside, and it was like, it's not awesome. It's not bad. It's right at that borderline of the price where it's like, okay, yeah, if this is something you need and you need it to be tiny, because it's smaller than a paperback but bigger than a deck of cards, and you need a lot of options for input and a good output, yeah, it does work. But other than that, it's not something that's going to blow you away, but it is kind of handy. So I don't know, it's nice to see FOSI spreading out, but I'm not overly jealous that I wasn't offered to be sampled this one.
And that's not just sour grapes. He really means it.
No, I've got their tube headphone out.
Oh, see? So you're good.
That was pretty good.
By the way, I'm sure all of us are familiar with integration in the computer world. The only thing better than integration,
Disintegration?
very large scale integration,
Oh,
aka VLSI. That's what it stands for. If you didn't know,
We haven't heard from them in a while.
Intel has won a crucial verdict in their legal fight against patent troll VLSI. Now, VLSI didn't used to be a patent troll, but that's apparently all they are now.
Yeah, shell of a company.
And they were getting billions from Intel, and that $3 billion could come right back.
It could. They had an agreement with another company called FinGen, I guess, Incorporated, that is owned by both VLSI and FinGen are both owned by Fortress, or in some way controlled by Fortress. And they have an agreement with FinGen that basically says that like affiliated companies or wholly owned companies also are party to that agreement that in technology sharing. So they successfully argued that they should not be subject to any more VLSI extortion, I guess, patent extortion. And the courts finally agreed with them. But this is coming several years late. They have already had several verdicts against them that totaled up to about $3 billion. I think Intel could use that pocket change right now. So maybe this is going to come back to them. And Fortress is, I believe, is a company in business to sue people over patents. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's one of their primary ways that they earn money.
Okay.
I wish you were wrong.
I think this cuts into their primary business strategy. So it's sort of you're kind of like rooting for the giant company to win against these patent trolls because they're sort of lower on the food chain. I mean, patent trolls are terrible, right? So I'm sort of glad to see this happen, and I really do hope Intel wins back the $3 billion that they've already shelled out or were litigated to shell out. They could use it.
Hey, VLSI originally was founded in 1979 by people from Fairchild. Another company was founded from former...
Well, I remember hearing about VLSI a long time ago that, you know, they did actually produce chips.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 1999, they no longer produced chips.
Yes.
Or anything.
Yeah.
Except litigation.
Except
they did.
lawsuits.
Yeah, exactly.
They produced a lot of lawsuits.
Yeah. So they turned into just wielding their patent portfolio or whatever they were gifted as patents against other companies. And that was what it was. They were suing, and they had successfully sued Intel on chip making of some sort. Not really sure what the intricacies were of that.
Speaking of intricacies, think about the type of complexity introduced by PCI-E 6. We have boards now with 5 pretty consistently. Some people are adopting Gen 5 hardware. I know the latest generation Intel graphics are Gen 5. I don't know if the AMD stuff is. Is it 4 or 5? Wasn't paying attention. But storage.
It's barely there. It's barely there right
Gen
now.
5 storage drives.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Gen 7. Molex has demonstrated PCIe 7.0 cabling solution. That's 128 gigatransfers per second at 1 meter. Now, it's been a limitation for a long time. This whole thing with PCIe 7. You've been trying it out at home. You're just not getting the throughput you expect. And it's because you don't have a robust enough connector and cable solution. And Molex is here to help. Now, Molex, as you know, set the standard for hard drive and early VGA power connectors.
Oh, yeah.
You know, their 4-pin prowess is unmatched.
It's well known. Worldwide.
That thing was secure. Ever tried to get one of those out?
No. Yes,
NVIDIA could learn a thing or two from Molex.
Oh my gosh, that's a hot take and totally true.
But look at this. Actually, speaking of, here's a small plastic connector with a metal clip.
Oh my gosh.
So it doesn't come out. And look, the metal clip has these 2 little pins that go into these 2 little holes and locks it in place. Who would have thought?
Of course it doesn't come out. It's a Molex connector.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to
But it's funny.
Jensen.
It's funny that we can see
that this is where he needs to go with the next generation.
Yeah.
12 volt
but
power.
It's funny that you could see, like, instead of card edge connectors, that we've got some sort of like ribbon cable connector that now potentially is like, oh, this is how PCIe 7 is going to look. Card edge is just whatever. We're just going to screw the cards in, PCIe 7, and then just run a ribbon cable down to PCIe 7 port potentially.
Yeah,
God,
look,
I do kind of like that cable. Look at that. That
Look
is,
at
that's like what SCSI should have been.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
Josh, we're only at 0.9 version of the PCIe 7 spec right now, but it will be ratified this year. Okay,
This year?
So expect to see 7 in the early 2030s. So very.
Yeah, I was going
soon.
to say you're a minimum of 4 years out before we see 7.
6 is
Minimum.
probably next year to 27. 20.
Yeah, probably 27.
2027.
I think 27.
I just want to show a nice little contrast here where you've got this Molex solution.
Lots of connections.
And then here, you just have a little plastic connector with a plastic tab. And it's
doesn't
supposed to
even
carry
click.
600 watts.
It's almost like someone was serious about cable connecting, and somebody else was like, well, here's good intentions.
Let's pause here for a word from this week's podcast sponsor.
The threats facing your network and consequently your private data are becoming increasingly sophisticated and puts your business operations at risk. Help spot these threats before they escalate into a security incident with NordLayer. Stop malware, ransomware, and phishing attacks from reaching your endpoints with NordLayer's deep packet inspection, download protections, and DNS filtering. NordLayer helps identify, analyze, and prevent risks emanating from both external and even internal sources, because you never know what might be on an untrusted USB drive or a web-based downloaded software installer. NordLayer is offering a business-oriented, toggle-ready solution with no additional hardware that can connect and protect users by combining VPN, access controls, and threat protection into one single easy-to-use platform. Built on the standards of NordVPN and Zero Trust, NordLayer works across all platforms: Windows, macOS, iOS, Android, and Linux, to grant only the right people access to the correct resources. Deployable in minutes with no hardware or complex configurations, NordLayer scales easily with your team and infrastructure to secure your networking and spot threats before they escalate with dark web monitoring and data breach prevention. NordLayer can even help your business meet regulations through granular access controls, encryption in transit, mobile or desktop device level security, and VPN usage monitoring. Try NordLayer risk-free for 14 days with up to 22% off a yearly plan, plus take an additional 10% off with our code PCPer-10 at nordlayer.com/PCPer. That's nordlayer.com/PCPer. Use code PCPer-10 for an additional 10% off.
Welcome to Insecurity Corner, your weekly reason to drink.
And our first story.
No, not already.
Yes, it's
Yes,
Insecurity
already.
Corner. You know it. You heard the bumper, or maybe not. The listeners will. Meta's Pixel and Yandex's Metrica trackers scoff at Android Sandbox. I was reading about this. This is, I mean, they're doing it on every platform. These researchers
Were
found
you
it
shocked
on Android.
In
No.
any way? Surprised?
No, because I know the behavior, like the weird coincidences when ads show up because my wife's iPhone is listening to us and delivering contextual advertising. I don't have
Who else
any
has been
meta
seeing
apps of any
Who else has
kind.
been seeing ads for kayaks for the last 10 days after talking about them? I know I have.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're exploiting things to get around restrictions on tracking. And, oh, don't worry, they'll stop. They'll never stop. It's a tremendous revenue source for Facebook, so why would they stop?
Well, it's not a revenue source. We are making your experience more tailored to what your needs are. This is a service we're offering you by, totally breaking Android Sandbox and passing unique identifiers from every single site you visit through a phone home loopback bug that we wanted to fix, but breaks a lot of really lazy websites, so people hated it. And so that's what they did. And they got caught. And Yandex, who runs a whole bunch of apps, which I've never heard of before, but apparently are ridiculously popular, is doing the same damn thing. Both companies were reached out to say, hey, this is pretty much absolutely, completely, inarguably in breach of the Google Play terms and services. To which they replied, I guess we misunderstood what they meant by not breaking their sandbox and tracking people with unique identifiers in maps that aren't our own. Our bad. And within 24 hours had fixed it. Yandex, on the other hand, or Yandex, not a word. They don't care. They're still doing it. It's good on Meta, I guess, for stopping after they get caught. I mean, it is kind of bad. It's like, stop setting things on fire. I'm not setting things on fire. Okay, I literally caught you setting things on fire.
Yeah, but besides that.
Okay, I'm not doing it tomorrow. See, look, I'm not setting anything on fire right now. And so that is totally what they've done. And I'm sure that they'll try and work it out with Google that they can still continue to do this. They just need to put something in Meta products, terms and services to allow them to do this.
Well, that was actually the next story that I linked that you wrote, which was Meta reversing course on the Pixel script that they were ripping everybody off.
They're not setting things on fire today.
It was a misunderstanding.
Totally. Mm-hmm. The fact that we totally went and found this bizarre bug and obfuscated it completely and totally, nothing to do with it. It was just coincidence.
They said, okay, turn off the misunderstanding. Okay, it's off. All right. Oh, we just found the problem,
it never happened,
guys. It's fixed.
Yeah. Yeah, we got it.
Mea culpa.
Yep.
Yes. So one of the interesting things from the reversal was that we found out that Chrome is currently testing on one of their alpha versions a way to block this essential loop back for phoning home, which is how they were doing it. It's a little more complicated than that. It's interesting to read if you're into networking. Firefox is supposedly kind of working on something, probably because they're not getting their cut. But what was interesting was Brave.
Was it a port forwarding technique? Port forwarding technique on the local host IP? I'm guessing it's okay.
Because we don't ask permission to use that, because a lot of things actually need it. Like, are you still here? Or
they do IPC that way as well. So using Yep.
So that was essentially what they did, with some other interesting munging going on. So a little more complex than that, but read into it if you're curious. But the infamous Metapixel evolved into the Metapixel script, and as of right now, they're probably still not using it. They definitely stopped this morning, though.
By the way, if you're a Chrome user, there is, of course, another 0 day that you need to.
Yeah, it's like the third this year. Third. Yeah, at least
there's one every month. Maybe not as often as that.
Like every 6 weeks or so, you get well, this is an exploited 0 day. Now maybe I'm slicing it too finely here, but I think they had 14 or something last year. So there's still time left this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things
so there's
this summer.
Yeah, and it's being exploited, of course, in the wild. So you're going to want to, if you haven't been offered it yet, go into your Chrome About menu and definitely patch that browser, patch that Chrome, because there's a 0 day out there that's exploiting account takeover. It's it's a JavaScript problem, so it's sort of a silent
it's OS agnostic violation. So don't think that just because you're running
on a
something
Mac,
that's not Windows,
Linux or something.
Patch now.
Yeah, think of Chrome essentially as a VM. Okay, pretend it's a VM with access to your local system, and that's sort of
a leaky VM with access.
Yeah, it's not very well sandboxed, but
there's your problem. So they just had to put some more restrictions around some sort of third-party library that they've got in there. But 0 day exploit in Chrome. Go update now. Well, maybe, if you're using Chrome to watch this, maybe wait.
Yeah, don't update yet. You'll have to remain vulnerable throughout the rest of this live stream.
Yeah, but it's not our fault.
No.
Just like always.
Warned
Yeah.
you, but it's just no
By the way,
warranty expressed or implied.
Yeah. Speaking of 0 days that are being exploited, your phone is not immune. Qualcomm fixes 3 Adreno GPU 0 days exploited in attacks. This isn't theoretical.
This seems embarrassing.
It's worse than that, though, because what they've done is provide the OEM with the patches to fix your Snapdragon. It's not going to come down as an Android update immediately. You may have to go out and hunt this bloody thing down, assuming that you don't have to jailbreak your phone to be able to install it, or patiently wait for really, really hopefully a patch coming soon. Because, I mean, I know Adreno is a very niche market. Hardly anything uses it. Definitely not like, I don't know, 90% of the Android phones on the planet or devices on the planet. So yeah, and they're not good and they need to be patched. But the problem is Qualcomm can honestly say, hey, we did our thing. We found these bugs. We fixed them. We distributed the patches.
To the OEMs, not to the
So it's not on them anymore.
True.
But the OEMs, well, yeah, we sit and wait.
Convenient loophole.
And wait.
So
And
this was known about, and I believe patches were released several months ago, like a couple months ago, like in the March timeframe. So this is, and the OEMs have been sitting on this with, I mean, they have a vast system of devices that they would need to patch and roll out.
And how many of them are
OEMs?
IoT? Sorry, we're monetized tonight, so I can't refer to it by its proper name. But IoT devices that have been abandoned. Yeah,
Doorknobs, cameras, smart refrigerators. You know, it's just a huge number of devices that will never be patched, and people will not know that they are potentially vulnerable to this.
Unless they watch a show. In which case they'll know they're vulnerable, but there's nothing they can do about it except for pitching it out and getting a new one.
Yeah, let's circle back to Molex again. That was more fun.
No, but hey, speaking of vulnerabilities, the entire AI industry is vulnerable to this pesky thing called copyright law. Now, there are companies that would just fail to cease to exist if they had to start honoring that whole copyright thing.
Like Napster.
Yeah. Just like
do you know how hard it was not to use a screenshot from the IT Crowd commercial that I posted that I actually wanted to use? Oh, Brett knows.
Why? Because of copyright?
No, because it wouldn't have been appropriate for
okay.
Yeah.
A lot of things.
Well, Getty Images has been a victim of AI scraping. They're suing Stability AI, creators of Stable Diffusion, for, quote, spitting out images that replicated Getty's famous trademark, end quote. So this large language model, not just scraping, but literally scraped the trademark.
Yeah,
put it
and started generating
think about that for a second.
Like the
not
trademark,
just the content,
the trademark.
Not just the content, but their mark, the Getty mark.
They're putting the watermark on AI-generated images?
Essentially.
Except
essentially.
It's slightly different because it's Stable Diffusion's version of
their
watermark.
But you can see there's a lineage to it. It's derived. Yeah.
And so Getty figured, hey, this is a perfect court case. We're not even saying, hey, they're stealing our content. It's like they're literally stole our trademark and are replicating it.
Clearly, they have trained off of our content. Exactly.
Yeah. So here's the problem, is that Getty Images has spent millions on this court case. And they are probably going to win it. But Stability AI doesn't care. They're going to make more than that. They will happily pay it off. And the thing is that Getty, we're talking about very large corporation with a lot of money, literally can't afford to go after all of the trademark violations being done by Stable Diffusion and other AI art harvesters.
Is it because of the way the copyright law is written? They have to individually sue over every violation? Is that probably
essentially
the reason? Interesting.
in part, I think that you could do it as a major lawsuit, and as you've launched that lawsuit, another dozen 200 million copyright infringements happen. Like, there's literally no way to keep up with it. Because they're saying, well, no, we want to put a stop on this because we're suing you for stealing our copyrights. And like, no, stop. Just stop.
Just shut down AI. Just shut them all down.
And here's the thing. I mean, hey, I'm not saying that's the worst thing that could happen, especially for this sort of thing. But yeah, it's just that you can't go after the LLMs because they're stealing at such an inhuman pace. You can't possibly keep up without an AI-powered lawyer. And I'm sure that someone is looking into this. But it's just such a
powered lawyer.
Brilliant reversal of back in the day when the recording industry in America used to try and sue individuals for up to 150 grand per song because you could just download as many as you wanted. But the thing is, they were the ones with the money. You didn't have the money, so you'd rather pay them off if you had to because you couldn't afford the lawyers. Well, now it's the giant corporations that can't afford the lawyers to be able to keep up with it. But don't worry, kids. That LLM is perfectly harmless, and yes, you should definitely be using it for everything. It'll never lie to you.
Yeah, including whatever it tells you. Definitely treat it as if it was human-made. I saw that other story as well. But,
yes.
By the way, just a PSA, just in case you're somehow gullible when you shop online, even though you're savvy enough to build your own PC and listen to our podcast. A shopper, this is a story at Ars Technica, a shopper was denied their refund for this 20 terabyte hard drive from Toshiba that ended up just being a plastic shell with some...
I have 5 of these on order.
Metal weights inside of it with some hot glue.
That was a box. The Toshiba was just a box. It wasn't really a Toshiba, but and a sticker.
Yeah, so
but we know that they're iron weights.
They were shopping at a rather disreputable looking site. It's not like they got this on not like they got this on Amazon or Newegg. It was
right.
Chicken Tech.
Chicken Tech.
Yeah, chicken.
Free dip and sauce with every hard drive.
So no refund. Of course, they got scammed. There's enough logic apparently in the connection here that it showed up as hard disk when they plugged it into their computer. But of course, there was no drive inside. So they bought.
Well, actually reported it as 18 terabytes of available space.
Oh yeah,
and we may have heard these scams before about like low.
We have
low storage. USB drives being reprogrammed to whatever size anybody wants.
And they do give you that storage because they just continually overwrite themselves.
Exactly.
Your whole file was copied over itself 50 times.
Yeah. There's enough local storage on there to report itself as the size you expect and to keep a list of the files you've copied over.
Yeah. So the CTO of that company who did that was actually Keanu Reeves.
Whoa.
I had this happen to me once, but I was able to return it. I bought a Western Digital external hard drive at Target. It was open box, but it was a great price, so I grabbed it. And I got it home. Desktop, it showed up, but it was weird. It didn't properly format. Ended up taking the drive out, and somebody had swapped in like an old 2 terabyte and put it in like a 10 terabyte enclosure.
Interesting.
But the little chip was still reporting it as the larger size. Anyway, I took it back. I was trying to explain it to the person at the service desk. They're like, so you want a refund? Yeah, just take, yes. Yeah,
so somebody else.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. The big story in the scam front was Micro Center allegedly had 31 boxes in their stock at this one store of this 5090 that somebody had swapped out these, I guess, backpacks inside the box.
Weighty
roughly
backpacks.
The same weight.
They're all JoshTEKK, actually. So clearly they're all essentially, the problem originated from wherever JoshTEKK GPUs are coming from. These are all 5090s.
Yeah, like the importer or
yes,
somebody got real sneaky, and they swapped out a bunch of stuff on a pallet and got a bunch of 5090s, which they probably sold to China. And
if they'd been weighted
money.
blankets, at least you could have passed them off to the girlfriend, and someone would have been happy.
Now in Micro Center's, good on them. They actually replaced, the card with the proper 5090.
That's not a $50 drive. That's a hefty investment.
Yeah.
It's a $3,400 purchase.
Well,
maybe the
good
backpack
thing
was worth
is
$3,400.
Yeah,
all those 5090s.
Were you allowed to keep the backpacks? Could you keep the backpacks?
All those 5090s had 12-volt high failure connectors. And so if they went to China, we will start seeing reports of mass infernos at Chinese AI labs.
Mm-hmm.
It could happen.
Will we hear about them, though, or will they just happen?
That's
No,
true.
it'll just happen. That'll happen. All right, let's immediately move to gaming quick hits. And let's talk about, hey, who doesn't like Catalyst drivers? Way back in the day, ATI, this is Tron. Tron Catalyst. We have a demo available now.
Yeah, in the game in just under 2 weeks. If you are so inclined to, jump on a, 40-some-year-old bandwagon? It was that
What's
long
wrong
ago.
with Tron?
Nothing.
Wasn't the Tron 2.0 game? That was actually really solid in the early 2000s.
Well,
It
apparently
looked
these
nice,
guys
too.
have made a few of these games. That they've actually got an established world where you exist in the Tron CompuVerse. What do you want to call that?
Sure.
But yeah, so this is sort of it's not quite isometric, but it is top down, bit of a baller. I'm assuming a bit of puzzle solving. But hey, the demo is the first hour gameplay, so you can get a good chunk of it, decide whether you like it or not. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be better than the old arcade game. You're not going to be playing a knockoff version of Breakout to try and kill a computer core.
Some possibly
Come on,
more
running
exciting.
around in tanks and light cycles.
Oh, the light cycles have made it, and you get a disc to fight with.
Okay.
I love the tanks and light cycles. I thought they were very cool.
Yeah, the tank with the offset cannon was
Yes.
a neat looking concept.
Very
Makes no sense, but it looks cool.
did.
And the
Moving right
recognizers,
along. Moving
the sound
right
of
along.
recognizers, sound
The
of
next story.
recognizers, so good.
Gosh darn it.
Let's
That's
move
a
right
Paul
along to the
Simon
next
song,
story.
isn't it?
Moving right along to the next story. CD Projekt Red is moving forward with Cyberpunk 2. It's not just a rumor. Project Orion is Cyberpunk 2077 2.
Yep. It's out of concept going into pre-production.
Yeah. What they'll call it? Will it be 2088? 2149?
I'm just people
Prequel.
maybe forgotten like how much trouble they had in launching the first one. I'm surprised that they've sort of gotten the financial backing to say, let's do this again. Maybe without the mistakes this time.
Well, and juggling the new Witcher at the exact same time.
Ah, true.
What could go wrong? Hey, worst case scenario, they
Nothing.
just delay. So they're
Yeah.
working on it.
No, launch early and suffer the bugs.
As our resident cyberpunk expert, Kent, what do you think?
I'm happy for it. Yes, they did have trouble at the launch, but overall they sold how many million copies of that game? And now
Something like
the reviews
30.
and now the reviews, in a lot of places, there are still people on that play this game regularly, stream it regularly, get a lot of viewers. It's a lot of people say it's one of the most revered games of all time now, even after that rough launch.
I don't know about the adjective you used.
Well, it's certainly one of the most revered PC hardware benchmarks of all time.
And there's certainly
But,
an R
I mean,
involved.
I enjoyed the heck out of it, but
They took the No Man's Sky thing, is that they released something that was not very good, but then they kept on it and they iterated and fixed.
No, that's
and
mean
updated
because it supports ultra wide, and No Man's Sky still doesn't.
That's probably a fair criticism.
No Man's Sky is really console first. And that was one of the problems with Cyberpunk is they tried to release it on the PlayStation 4
They did.
and
I mean,
whatever
it did
version
have
of the
bugs.
Xbox. They weren't powerful enough. It was a disaster.
It also had legitimate bugs. At the time.
Yes, yeah. But they were the stuff of meme legend at this point. We need things like that.
Well, it still is to this day.
Yeah, the No Man's Sky. What they promised, what they delivered, the person on the kazoo, yes. It's fantastic.
Yes. Or the harmonium. Harmonia? Or melodica.
The melodica.
The melodica. That's my favorite one. Fallout London's DLC still coming soon. But you can now immersively drink its irradiated tea in VR, says this author at Rock Paper Shotgun.
Which I'm sure is not nausea-inducing at all.
No. It's
Either the irradiated tea or the VR.
It's not officially released. It's in beta, as I think Jeremy would say. Do you say beta or beta or beta?
Beta.
Beta, okay.
It's the better way to
Nexus
say
Mods.
it. Unless I'm talking about
like
the
the
VHS
fish.
competitor.
What do you say
Yes.
about the fish? Is that a beta or is that a beta also?
It's just a waste of time and money. I mean, they're tropical fishes. You know how much money you have to dump into those things to keep them alive?
That's commentary. That's commentary on the fish. You're evading the issue. All right. So
Yeah, we're waiting on it. And honestly, I hit a game-breaking bug, so I bailed on it. And I'm just waiting for the DLC to drop, and I'll rebuild the entire thing from scratch. Which, by then, I hope they've figured out how to make it a little more approachable to do.
it felt like
for
this
me,
was
it's not-
imminent. When we first started talking about this was like a while ago.
Oh, yes.
Has it been a year? Like, did we talk
Easily,
about this
I think.
last year? And that it seemed like it was like, it's here, it's coming, it'll be here soon. And it's been a year since. I know they had some issues with like the update to Fallout 4 that prevented their compatibility.
Yeah, they did a nice rollback because it's definitely completely and totally unrelated that as they were launching this thing that people were more interested in than a Fallout 4 remaster, the Fallout 4 remaster dropped several days before.
It's not compatible anymore. Oh, no.
Yeah. But no, they've got a rollback and a couple of installers. It's just, you actually have to want to play it. So you have to go through a couple of steps to be able to do it. I'm sure they've made that a little easier. GOG certainly did. And yeah, so it's been out for about a year. We're waiting for the DLC, which they've been promising for about a year. And we shall see.
By the way, you know how NVIDIA is just taken over because of AI and all that. There's no escape. And you can try to shield yourself from NVIDIA all you want.
Oh,
you can even hit the deck, but it will still crash onto your Steam. I don't know what I'm saying. Steam Deck native GeForce Now app. NVIDIA has taken over the Steam Deck, theoretically.
who's surrendering to who here? I'm not
Supercharge
sure.
your Steam Deck, says NVIDIA, with GeForce Now.
I mean, most of the Shield owners I know use them to like prop up tables and stuff nowadays. So I think we know who won that one.
Okay.
Nintendo.
Yeah, but isn't Steam Deck AMD?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Interesting.
Yeah, this is
Mind blown.
interesting.
Strange.
Very interesting.
Yet odd.
So now you can
They're
play.
wanting to use the GeForce
networked-
Now so to force people to play on NVIDIA hardware, even when they've got AMD hardware in their hand.
Well,
That's-
I'm
that's
glad
it,
you
Kent.
brought that up, Kent, because NVIDIA's software stack is so powerful. They've superseded the need for hardware. Eventually, they'll just be a services company like IBM. They'll sell off their hardware division to Lenovo, and then they'll just start doing services and like consulting and stuff. So they'll just consult, like people can hire them to tell them how to make big money on AI.
I mean, I'm not sure you're wrong, but I like the Lenovo comment.
which was what? QTI or Q? I don't remember what it was before it was Lenovo. All right. I think it's time for picks of the week. And Josh, I hope you have one and that you're ready to talk about it.
Yes, I do. So, hang on a second. So I bought this for $300 some months ago because I was supposed to get some things from some people to redo an entire build on an 870 based motherboard and 9000 based Ryzen. And I paid $300 for the 2 terabyte because, why would you get a 1 terabyte? And Samsung, over the last 2 months, have dropped that drive by like $60. So I'm out $60 and I haven't used that drive yet. It's all because of people. People are letting me down left and right. It's bad. So, yeah, if you want to get a fast PCI-E 5.0 2 terabyte drive, they're now far more affordable than they were 2 months ago. $60. That's a game. That's some cooling. That's memory. That's other things that I could buy. That's like 4 or 5 burgers.
Exactly.
Easy.
This is very Josh Rooney of you. Mm-hmm. Very good.
Okay.
Anger. The anger is coming out because Samsung has dropped the price dramatically in a very short amount of time.
I like how upset you are that they've dropped the price. It's more affordable than ever before.
Damn you,
How
giving
dare
other
they?
people good deals.
Can you believe it?
It always makes me feel better when something I buy
$60
goes up. Then I feel like I have equity in it. Like, oh, my SSD is worth money. I can retire. All right.
Anyway, but yeah, that's my pick. It's a very, very fast SSD, and it has now become far more affordable than what it was even a short time ago. And I have no idea how much more it's going to drop. Maybe some. I don't know. But yeah.
The competition's heating up in the Gen 5 SSD
sure
space. Is. All right, Jeremy.
I mean, it's funny you should say that. Oh. Because Josh hadn't picked something, or if he did, I wasn't paying attention. Up here in Canada, the 990 Evo, the 5.0, is less than 10 cents a gig. It's $190 for the 2 terabyte right now.
What? And that's in Canadian.
Yeah. That's some nice stuff right there. That is, I don't really need the 5.0 speeds, but if I'm going to be buying a drive and the 5.0 is the same price as the 4.0, you might just want to go with a newer one. Future-proof yourself. You'll be saving several femtoseconds over the course of a year or two. It will be definitely worth it. But no, it's a great drive. But the one that I kind of wanted to mention was the second one, which is just, I'm sorry. What? For those that forget, the 870 QVO was a SATA drive. This is not a PCIe. This is an old SATA SSD. 4 terabytes for $360. You can get all sorts of 4 terabyte drives for that price, all of which are not running on SATA speeds. I don't know if they found a box and are just trying to get rid of them or hoping there's a bunch of people born yesterday. But no, I saw that and I'm like, are you serious? That's just insulting. That is wrong. You should flagellate yourself like Josh was earlier.
Mm-hmm.
There it is.
Yeah.
It is rude. It's because there are people who don't have NVMe, and why punish them? It should be the bargain thing. Like, oh, here's $100. It's 4 terabytes.
This is slightly better than the $50 4 terabyte one, but not by much.
How many femto seconds am I going to save if I stop using my 3.0 drives?
More than
Some.
Oh wait,
I know.
do you actually have a pick, Brett?
Oh, I do. Would you like to hear about it?
Yeah.
No.
So yeah, today's pick is a little bit pedestrian, in my opinion. However, if you're invested in this lighting system, then maybe you want to head over to Woot and check out their sale on all the different things that is Philips Hue, Wi-Fi enabled color strips, regular light bulbs, changing light bulbs, controllers, plugs, outlets, packs of lights. Just Woot has got kind of like a lot of the Philips Hue system available, and it's selling out. So if you're into that and you have a system in your house and you maybe like them, but the price of buying more of them have been prohibitive, which they are, they're very expensive. Relatively good, though, in my opinion. It seems like good reviews for the most part. This is a place to go get, well, more of it at not full price. Simple pick.
But watch out for the copycat Hugh Phillips lighting.
Yeah, watch out for, the non-official lighting, rip-off lighting.
And then the Hugh Grant red lighting.
That's different.
That's deep cut.
Yeah.
Kent, your pick this week.
So, you've got your new SSD and your new lighting, but you need a way to install it. Well, how about a nice ratcheting screwdriver from a very well-known and respected brand? This has 11 bits in the handle.
Wait, Linus Tech Tips?
No.
Oh.
Okay.
Are you sure?
For
Yes.
people listening, it is not an LTT screwdriver. It's
It
from
is a
DeWalt.
DeWalt
There we go.
because, well, I won't say it. Nice thing about this screwdriver is it has incredibly low back drag on the ratcheting mechanism. So a screw has to be really.
I saw that movie in 1991.
No. Can we cut in a clip from Project Farm discussing backdrag?
No.
Right here.
No.
No.
Is that really a thing he discusses with the ratcheting
absolutely.
screwdrivers? Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't see that
Any
one.
ratcheting mechanism, he'll talk about backdrag.
boy.
Oh yeah, and any tool person will talk about back drag on a ratcheting
heck yeah.
Apparently, I'm not enough of a tool.
Absolutely.
person.
Russell
But
talks about.
It's got
I think you're quite.
it's got
a tool.
magnetic tips.
Okay. Thank you, Brett.
The magnets are quite strong, and it's $20
they
at
work?
Ace Hardware. Surely
With the
you've got
bits? It comes with the bits?
With the bits.
yes.
Yeah.
Why is it only
bits
3
are in
stars out
there.
of 5?
It's got a Torx. It's got a 10. It's got a 20. It's got a 25. It's got.
It doesn't
It's
have
got,
any
two
hours, and it can
it's
go
got
to
a
hell.
number 1 and 2 square bit in it, just in case you ever run into
Hey.
something that some madman attached with those.
There was a period of time where that
Oh,
was
wait,
the
it does.
go-to.
It does have
Those-
Robertson. Okay. Yeah.
Those are
Dexter's
Canadian.
stuff were square
Those
for
are
a while.
Canucky stand bits.
Yeah,
It
they
is
still use
the
them up there.
best screw head. It's a square.
I
Let's
like it.
ask-
I like
let's
it
ask
better
Henry Ford.
than the
Let's ask Henry
frickin'
Ford.
T25 stuff. I don't like the modern
Henry-
instructions.
Hey, why do you
Henry
think
Ford
ratchets
disagrees.
Huh? What?
to get to attach a ratchet top to the thing? It's square.
My point exactly.
All of them do. They've
Thank
got a
you,
square on the
Robertson.
ratchet head.
Because it's the best.
It's the best.
It's the best. You're welcome.
Is it satisfying to use?
3 stars out of 5.
I'm actually incredibly happy with it.
Do you know what this means?
War.
Kent has low standards.
What? Come on.
I don't believe that.
Josh,
I don't
hangs
remember
out
what
with
brand
us.
it was.
3 stars out of 5.
My
How can the
brother-in-law
internet be
bought one of
wrong?
these from a place like, I don't know if it was Ace Hardware or where it was, but I was using it And I'm like, this is really nice. What is this? And he's like, I don't know, but I paid like $15 for it. And it was just some store brand. But these tools are getting better. Like some of these, you don't have to pay $75 for the YouTube endorsed one is all I'm trying to say.
Yep.
But what if I
I'm
wanted
saying
That's
the
where we were
Craftsman
going
was
with it.
bought out. They've gone
Yeah.
downhill.
Yep.
He's leaving.
He's
the
got to
set.
go now.
Yep, but at least he didn't throw his microphone.
Alone now. Doesn't seem to be any Sebastian around.
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's got a
That's the sound of
nice
work
sound
getting done.
to it.
That's the sound of real work getting done. Yep.
Although when you're trying to unscrew
where's-
the box,
where's-
so you
where's
can get the bits out, that
DeWalt
might be
based
annoying.
out of?
It's owned by Black &
store.
Decker now.
Oh, they
far as I
were
know.
they originally like a Netherlands group?
No, I think they were an
From the
American
DeWalt
company
family?
to begin with, and
I don't know. Oh, here he comes.
Oh, he's back.
Nobody knows.
Get those headphones on.
I had to get
He's
my
back.
pick. It was on the other different part of the basement.
you're what?
Pick.
You have a pick.
I have a pick.
standing
Yeah,
by.
we know you play guitar.
I have yes, I have several picks, but this particular pick is Josh. This is all for you. You talked about
Wait, what? Oh,
you
I'm
spent
glad I'm not your pick.
$300. You spent $300 on an SSD, and you were a little upset that the price came down. I was once like you, Josh. I know how you feel. I felt the same way.
Hey, if I'm going to suffer, everybody else needs to suffer.
Yeah, it's the human experience. Years ago, my first SSD purchase, I went on newegg.com. Was all excited. I had been listening to this very podcast. Alan was talking about the X25M. It's X25M this, it's X25M that, and I felt like I had to have one. And they finally came down to $299 for the 80 gigabyte model. And I paid $300 to get myself an 80 gigabyte X25M drive. And of course, the price just came down after that, but it didn't matter. And I was still running Windows XP on my system, just like Alan was, although he was XP 64-bit. And it was amazing. Thing booted in like 5 seconds.
So quick.
It was more like 10, but I don't think I'll ever have that kind of upgrade experience again. It's like when people went from VHS to DVD. And for a lot of people, that was enough. Like, this is so much better than VHS. I'll never.
Oh yeah,
Never go
because
back.
we should have went beta.
And then they never went to Blu-ray. I know people who just, they buy DVD. They don't care. They can't see the difference.
Ask Josh about his Laserdisc.
But yeah, this, going from a spinning drive to this in the XP era, because I was avoiding Vista like the plague when Windows
Magical.
7 wasn't
It's
out
like
yet. It was
magical experience.
Real. Hit the power button, see the BIOS flash like for a second, like, and then Windows is loading, and then it's just you're at desktop before you can do anything.
I said
Anyway.
it when I reviewed. I said it when I reviewed the OLED last year. That the two most impressive upgrades I've ever done to a PC system is the first SSD and going to an OLED. Nothing like those two things.
So am I going to experience something transcendental when I replace a 3.0 NVMe with a 5.0 NVMe? Will it be just as transcendental?
No. You won't even notice it.
It will not.
It will not.
I don't know. Going from
3 to a 5.
2D voxel-based graphics to 3D effects voodoo graphics was pretty big. That seemed like a rather large increase in quality.
Okay, so yeah, going to a 3DFX card for the first time from 2D, that would be big too. But I mean,
Yeah.
my money's on this, as I don't know. It was a moment
Yeah,
in
but
time.
you don't know what gaming chairs have in store for you in the next generation.
Boy. By the way, somebody
let's not go there.
in chat mentioned something about FFT remake. So
I had
Square
not heard
Enix
this,
has
but
officially announced that they will be doing a Final Fantasy Tactics remaster.
damn.
I just hope it's not akin to
It's
what they
gonna
did
be.
with Tactics Ogre, because Tactics Ogre
It's going to be.
was not great. I have it. I wanted to love it, but they nerfed it. They made it. I don't know if that's the right word. Insert gamer term. They made it dumb. Like they took out a lot of the strategy and the way that you.
Well, no, that was my first comment. Is I don't have that old Nintendo magazine anymore that had the leveling guides for it, so you can get the chrono mages and the weird stuff.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. So hopefully they leave it alone because it's almost a perfect game. I love Final Fantasy.
They won't.
Tactics.
It's too
I
difficult
know.
for.
It's Square Enix. They'll
modern
change it
world.
just for the sake of changing it. Supposedly it may have the original PS1 version as well. Well, that's nice if you can switch back and forth between the
So
two.
you can just
That'd
replay
be
the
great.
PS1 version.
It's fine. War of the Lions, though, the PSP version, War of the Lions, is brilliant. And the cutscenes they added and the voice acting, it's top notch. The gameplay is the same, but there's added cutscenes, basically.
Okay.
And it's just fantastic. That's the one to play. I hope they leave those in. Or maybe they'll re-record them, but anyway.
And they don't make the actual characters look like smeared Zynga game characters like they have with some few other ones.
They like to do their new like 2D, 3D sort of CRT filter.
Doesn't always look good.
It doesn't. I'm not a huge fan. Oh well. I have the original version I can still play. That is going to do it for this week's episode of the PC Perspective Podcast. We want to thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you watched us record this or watch the YouTube version on demand at youtube.com/PCPer. Go ahead and, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube and you're not subscribed, do it.
This
You're
is
gonna
one of the
get-
top 20 tech podcasts.
And hit that
Actually, it's
bell
a top 10.
so you know
Top
when
10.
we go live.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, you know that you're going to get the podcast on demand later, and sometimes some other videos too. But hit that bell because then you'll know when we're live, and you can on your phone. You're driving down the road. You put your phone right in front of your face and watch us. Forget about the road. Watch the PC Perspective Podcast live.
You want to watch this and occasionally glance at the road.
Yeah.
Watch this.
Okay,
No, the road's boring.
it is boring.
Let us
We're
guide
not.
your path.
This is entertainment par excellence.
So smash that Grinder app on your phone.
No, wait a minute.
No.
No.
No, Josh, that's PCPer After Dark. You need to wait for that. That's it's a different show.
Josh, I thought you were on
He's
OnlyFans.
been
I didn't
confused
know
all
about
show.
the,
That's why I was
about the
whipping
grind.
himself earlier.
He always forgets which show he's on.
Yeah.
Forgets.
Yeah, well,
He's having a little party with his lemon.
You just had a Josh there. It's fine though.
He did. In a moment.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.